any form of teachings that revolve around your recognition of your true self, that revolve around this deepest level of realization, they are very sacred, actually, to listen to even, and to be in contact with. They just hold a different frequency that is about liberation. It is the ultimate journey of the soul. And so they hold a different significance. And never forget that whatever is talked about, even if it comes from this place of recognition, this place of realization, the words are just sort of the pointers or the byproduct, or a way how to mentally point you towards what you actually are. And oftentimes this mental layer of explaining and trying to convey to you ultimate reality is just a very small portion of being. And being is always already present here. And in the beginning, you will also notice that for these kind of teachings, you actually need to have a pure mind. There needs to be some previous work on your mind, some previous overhearing of your thoughts, some previous awareness, I would say. Not necessarily even that someone has a meditation practice before, but just the self-awareness has to be at a different level. Even the awareness of your relative self and what the relative self actually is. And so in the beginning, if you haven't had this kind of self work already, even listening is sort of difficult. There will be a difficulty to follow what is talked about, even conceptually. And then, even though you might conceptually understand what is talked about, there might not be an actual hearing that is taking place. This is also very often the case, and it shows the different stages of where someone actually is on the scope of realization, being able to actually listen to what is said, to not immediately place your own filters also on what is said, like to immediately place your own filters. Yeah, I know this, and this I don't know, and this is not how my tradition teaches it. And watch these filters. Listening is something goes inside actually, and is allowed to unfold from inside by pure listening. So listening and hearing, such an important way actually to receive teachings. And it's often not talked about enough. How much your listening is part of your learning, part of the unveiling and of the chance of what is already here to expand. And then the third thing about teachings of the self is that you will need to confirm them to you, and confirming not just mentally, but realizing, recognizing, doing your own confirmation of these kind of teachings. And so if it is just ingested, like all the other spirituality often is, if it is just consumed, if I'm just here for consumption, I just want to listen to you and hope that I gain realization from it. You will gain insight from it, but you will have to confirm these very subtle recognitions for yourself. There is no other way. So there has to be a direct, immediate experience of what is talked about. It cannot just stay at the consumption level. And in spirituality, there's so much consumption, and we are actually not clear about it lots of times that it has become a different a different compartment of consuming and of selfishness, actually, not selfishness as the self, but selfishness to attribute to myself continuously. And obviously, then these kind of teachings are also not going to land for you at all because you're not willing to let go of this constructed sense of self yet. And the Yogasutra that I wanted to talk to you today about is about these different states of union, how awareness actually can abide as itself, but how awareness can also focus in, and you can focus in any meditation, on an object. The focus of awareness, when awareness grasps something, whether that's an idea, a sense of self, for example, that is what identification is, whether it is another object, a gross object, or whether it is actually something very subtle, a subtle object. It is always in the way that there is some form of merging taking place, that there is some form of identification taking place, that the subject is gone. The only thing that shines is the object of focus or the subtle object of focus. There is no subjective stance of I. And what it points you to, and what the awakened state is an unconditioned state. It is a free state, because the usual conditioning that we weave around everything and anything is let go of. It looks at reality even as at appearances, what emerges, the appearances that come and go. It looks at everything as it is. There is no subjective stance that judges continuously. This is so important to realize also in your immediate experience, because a lot of people on this path of non-duality, where they actually stumble, or where there is some form of ending or blockage, is to go beyond the person. So they can go beyond the contents of the mind, but it's very difficult to go beyond the person, to look at even what arises for you as the person from the space of awareness, to step yourself further back, to uncondition, to look at what appears, good and bad, as appearances, as this world within your mind, and not have any opinion of it. Like in psychology these days, in Western psychology, you would term it like the super ego oftentimes. What is the person? What is this whole apparatus? It is perception. There's a perception happening. But instead of seeing those perceptions as simply arising, there is then this judgment on preference. I prefer good over bad. I prefer it this way. And what is the most difficult is to look at things how they actually are, not as we want them to be, to look at appearances as they are, to look at contents of the mind as they are, to look at your good and bad as it is, and not having to judge that then. And that's the difficult one. And that's the transcendence of the person. Because the person is continuously actually negating of what is actually really present. We don't want to admit that everything is part of this duality. We don't want to see that. We always want to appear better than we actually are. We don't want this kind of honesty to what is. And within this greater tapestry of this unified field, you could say, this unified emergence of appearances, everything is perfected for everyone to learn exactly what they want and must, and for this whole mosaic to actually emerge and be as it is meant to be. And so this whole mental congestion that then happens about what is arising. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever is arising in your mind as a thought, as an emotion, as a sensation even, has to be identified with, evaluated, and played out. There is a distance to what is happening. But what is arising from infinite intelligence for itself. It has that perfection to it. And so it is you remaining as that unchanging essence, independent of what arises, just seeing it all, being with it all. This also answers that no, non-duality is not bypassing anything. The opposite, actually. It is witnessing with a complete openness and emptiness whatever is arising, without the need to judge it, but also without the need to necessarily play it out or have a response to it. And this sutta is about, again, these objects of subtlety that are arising, and to start understanding that they can be grasped also with an overlay of your mind, a focus that is still continuously actually trying to make sense of what appears, or put it into the contextuality that you are used to, or that you feel is somehow better, or that makes up the personal belief systems, or to actually even subtle objects, to let them appear as they are without the need to do anything about it, and to look at subtle objects, subtle ideas as they actually are, to have no more resistance to it or acceptance of it, but to simply be with what is and to see it as that. So that's the sutta. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and for your own journey of becoming aware of yourself. Namaste.